I am Sean Ow Yong, or you can call me Hiro, as most people from the Budo's practice calls me. Yes, last year I participated in the special Budo program at International Budo University in Chiba, Japan. So I got back because of the COVID situation in April, and we actually ended our program around March. And because of COVID, so I was, in a way, forced to come back to Malaysia because of the lockdown and all that, especially in Malaysia. So, yeah, that
So
should
you had
be
gone there.
my
You had gone there
introduction.
for
Yeah.
Kyudo, but
Oh, yeah.
even before Kyudo, what were you interested in? How did you get started?
I actually started my interest in Japan because of the export of Japanese culture during the 90s to Malaysia. So a lot of if you know the VHS tapes, and in Malaysia, they have a lot of Hong Kong shows and also cartoons from Hong Kong, but actually it's like basically Japanese anime, which is dubbed in Cantonese. So that's where I got my start in exposing myself to Japanese culture. So what happened was during my 11th year in a school, 11th grade, I guess. It's equivalent to 11th grade, as Malaysia only has 11th grade, and from 12th grade onwards, you go to pre-university or foundation in university. So what happened was I actually signed up for a student exchange program by AFS. So I got accepted to homestay in Kumamoto, which I attended the Tamana High School for about a year, from March 2002 up to around February 2003. So what happened
what is
was
what is AFS and this exchange? Like someone
AFS.
else came from Japan to stay in Malaysia?
Actually, no. Most of the at this moment, people understand homestay. I mean, exchange is because there's one going there and one coming back. But the actual thing for this AFS is short term for American Field Service. So it's actually became like a non-profit organization that organize exchanges throughout the world. So Malaysia has a branch as well, and therefore they have organized like students from Malaysia to go to participating countries around the world that actually offers this program. So one of my friends actually got accepted to New Zealand. You actually have like a list of three preferred places from rank 1 to 3. So if you're lucky, you get the first one, and then but yeah, that's how I got started going to Japan, and that's how I actually got my background in learning the Japanese language. It's actually really because during that time as well, I was like so entranced with the Japanese culture and like manga, anime, everything I could find in Malaysia, I would just buy and read. And what happened was when I was in homestay, and what happened is when you go to Japan, you have like a short orientation period, and then you are being you will get a glimpse of where you're going to stay. You have basically everyone in Japan will have its own branches around Japan, and then like each branch will have volunteers that actually apply to participate in this program to accept student for a year. So all of this stuff is actually voluntary. So what happened is some might stay in different houses. Some you might get your own room. Some you might even need to stay with some of your foster brothers. So it varies from top to bottom. So what happened is actually my high school has a Kyudo club as well. But what happened is during that time, I love like football so much, or should I say soccer? So what happened is actually the first 6 months, I actually participated in the soccer club in for the school. So you can actually try out and participate. And when I realized the club in Japan, it's very much like um, it's very much like a family. It's like if you join, most of the time you're joined for the rest of your years, 3 years in the high school or even in junior high school. So it's that time I was a bit young, so didn't make much friends there because during my younger days I was a bit shy and stuff. So what happened was one of the volunteers leaders actually plays ego, if you heard about it. In Chinese, it's called Wei Qi. It's like a
Okay,
black and
yeah.
white, yeah, in a 19 squares board. And because of the manga that one of the mangas that I'm actually reading during that time was Hikaru no Go, which is why I was so interested in Go at that time. So what happened was I actually went. He actually introduced me to the sensei, and I went to the ego class, which was not far from my high school. So what happened is every I think 3 times a week I would go to that class, and that class is mainly actually for elementary students. So basically, you'll see like me, one big giant amongst like 20 children in that class, and most of them are really pretty good. It's they are at about like 1Q, one first dan kind of rank. So actually, I went to that class like throughout the second half of my year there, and actually enjoyed it. One of the interesting
How do
stories.
you even get like done Q ranks in Go?
It's Go. You would there is not much of a what we do in Budo, where you have an examination and stuff. It's basically how you play and basically more in likes of your knowledge, and then they will kind of base you on a certain cue or dan. So it basically depends on how good you can play Go. Then they put you on a rank. The only time where your rank actually is being officially recorded is if you actually um, participate in the yearly professional ego examination kind of thing, where you tend to play other people in a public setting, and then the first and second will get chosen to become professional. So basically, you'll be playing other professionals, and you'll actually be building up a career from playing people all over Japan. So where was I? All right. The story that was really interesting during my time in Ego is because like there's so many children around, and there's actually two particular uh, children who is I don't remember his or her name because his name because it's like maybe 15. Well, I think it's about 18 years ago. So I remembered it really well is because I made him cry. Because what happened was when I first joined, I was not really that good. I'm just like I understand about ego and stuff, and I tend to practice every single day and read and learn a lot about ego. So what happened was one of about 3 months, 4 months after I started the class, I tend to play this particular kid a lot. And what happened is he always does beat me. And one time when I actually beat him, won the game at about maybe like a few points, and then he actually like look at the board and he shed a tear. And I was so shocked and I didn't know what to do. And that time I was like still a high school student and I was like, I'm just dumbfounded by what happened. Yeah. But in the end, it's all good. Yeah.
Oh, when you were staying for your homestay, was there a
Yeah.
family there too, or is it just
Yeah.
like
There
couple?
is a family. The interesting part about Japanese homes, which people didn't realize, is that when you I heard with Joseph, where you were talking about like ofuro and like public bath, and actually in Japanese homes, what happened is actually if you recycle the water, it tends to be very costly, right? If you have like 5, 6 members of the family. So what happens is you are actually supposed to just use one tub of water, and actually you put some of the powders inside for the bath salts, and you are actually supposed to clean yourself up in the shower before you go into the tub. So what happens is the tub is still maintains the cleanliness whenever you go in, and most of the time it's actually like you're supposed to take your turn, like from the elder to the younger ones. But sometimes it's like they have their work to do and you're free, so sometimes they would let me to go in first after my host grandfather.
So I'm not used to this. Like since I remember being very young, I just like shower, I'm done with it, and I'm gone. But like, yeah, there's this custom of just sitting in a bath. Was that something
Yeah.
you're used to? I don't know if Malaysians' cultures does that too.
Nope. Because Malaysia, it's like 24/7 hour, I could say. Not much use of bath. Yeah, so it's actually a pretty, how do you say, culture shocking experience for me as well at that age. Haven't been traveling around the world a lot, so yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned that there was a Kyudo club at the high school, but was that something that you started right then and there, or you had soccer or anything else?
No, actually, what happened is my first Budo experience is actually from the Kendo, because what happened was the regular classes for the school. If I'm right, every school will have a like a Budo / dance class where you are allowed to pick one out of the three during that period. So it's a 1 hour, it's like a 40 minutes to an hour period where you are able to choose among three subjects. One is Kendo and Judo, and also actually a dance class. So what happened was that time, with the Ken and stuff, I'm always interested in Kendo, because last time, there's this anime called Rurouni Kenshin. I think everyone would know it. Yeah. So from there, I'm really interested in doing that. So that's where I went. But for the Kyudo, because my field was actually just beside the Kyudo, so I actually saw the Kyudo, but I never had the opportunity to just go in there and just ask if I could try it out and all that, because I was more into ego than Kyudo at that time. But I still see, like, in train stations and stuff where there's students that's carrying like this long thing, but I didn't know what it is. That's a bit like during that time I was more of a shy kid, so I didn't even like approach them, ask them what it is and all that.
So it sounds
Yeah.
like you were very serious with the ego and with the soccer. That means Kendo was more like just a hobby, like a gym. You'd go there and then you're done with it. It's not really a Budo in that sense.
Yep. That's just it. What happened was even when I came back, I wasn't really. I wanted to continue my kendo as well, because they have an actual like Malaysian kendo club here as well. But I found out that the lessons are not nearby. It's about 40 minutes to an hour away, and their lessons are at 7 p.m. most of the time. And during that time in the city is always the rush hour. So there's not much ways I can get there on time, even after work. So what happened is I kind of went for just the ego during that time. So it's only after like 6 years ago when one of my friend's brother, which I'm quite close to, he's now in Japan actually practicing karate, Kyokushin karate. So he's the one that posted on Facebook that there's a kind of like a tryout in the field, in the soccer field that for Kyudo. And because I wanted to do something to do with Budo, so I actually went for the tryouts. So what happened is I really start to get interested in it during that time, about 6 years ago. And because my sensei, Goka Sensei, he is actually an expat from Japan. He actually went to Tsukuba University during his university years. So that's why what happened was he came over as an expat, and actually through forums and introduction got how do you say, met up with two guys who was doing Kyudo at that time in Malaysia and basically doing it alone. So what happened was because of that, they all tried to start up a Kyudo club. And because Goka Sensei is actually from Tsukuba, so he does, as you might know, what Hoff Sensei is doing, which is Hikiryu in Saiha. So that's why in Malaysia now, basically almost everyone that started new in Malaysia is doing Hikiryu. And that's how actually it started.
So
What
why do you say
happened?
anyone that started new? So there are people there that are older that have been doing the showman style more?
Yes, you're actually right. There are some people that actually participated in AFS as well, who, unlike me, actually joined the Kyudo club in Japan when they're in high school. So what happened is, like, as you know, most of the Japan schools are actually doing showman style. So they, some of the senseis here, I mean, what they call assistant, um, technical assistant. What they do is even senseis actually prefer people to do their own style rather than change, because it's more or less like what we have in this club. I would like to think that it's more of a dokokai, which is like basically a place where everyone who has the same interests are doing the same thing, because we don't really have much of a like Godan or Renshi senseis here to teach us, which which I find is similar to other Southeast Asian countries as well. So yeah, so they continue practicing showman as they wanted to, because one of the biggest thing about Malaysia is because there's a lot of Japanese companies here as well. So actually, Saito-san, which is an expat here as well, which came over, which joined the club like a year after Goka-san left and went back to pursue his doctorate, I think. So he actually practiced showman style during the university years, which was, on that time, he was out of Kyudo for 24 years since university. So I think he was affiliated with one of the club members there, and actually heard about Kyudo, and he actually went back to when he went back to Japan for the holidays. He actually bought himself like a whole bunch of equipment to restart his career in Kyudo. And during his years here, he actually joined us together to go the Asia Oceania seminar, and I think he got his fifth dan and also his renshi um, during two of the seminars that he participated. Yeah.
So you mentioned because Malaysia Kyudo has been around for a little while.
Mhm.
It sounds like you get your pick of different dojos. So I'm assuming that you just chose the one that was closest to your house, and then how much do you guys like interact with in general as a federation? What do you guys get up to?
Ah, in Malaysia, it's a bit hard to go up to a federation level because one of the biggest issue with Kyudo is the cost of it with the equipment and stuff, and because um, quite an amount of students are around, maybe still students, and they sometimes I think most of them wouldn't be able to afford most of the equipment. So most of them are actually using what we did was rental ones, and what happened was they pay an extra fee on top of the monthly rentals that we need to use to pay for the badminton court that we use for our practice. And yes, so the issue with Kyudo in Malaysia not being able to become a federation is because we need like at a minimum of 8 states who has a Kyudo association to be able to make a federation out of it. So at this moment, up until now, since 2014, we still only have one club in Malaysia, which is in KL. Yeah, so we are still a small club, but at this moment, we have about 10 students, 10 practitioners over here in Malaysia, 10 to 20 on and off here and there.
Oh, I was under the impression that Malaysian Kyudo was like huge compared to other Southeast Asian countries.
Compared to other Southeast Asian countries, we have, you could say we have more people, but compared to them, we are still we are not much different from Singapore as well, because we kind of started almost the same time. So maybe Philippines, there's I think Vietnam and Thailand. Thailand would be way more older than us, I think. But I'm not that sure. Don't quote me on it. Yeah.
Okay, so you had spent some time in Japan. You had actually done some other Budo before. How have you
Yep.
seen your kind of integration with Kyudo? Like, what were things that you were finding were helping you pick it up faster, and what were things that you were then able to help others with in the club?
What happened was because as because of my experience in Japan, and I also know Japanese. So what happened with me was because in Malaysia practice was always during the weekend. It's only once a week. So for me, because of my knowledge of Japanese, I could search on YouTube for different kinds of information, and I realized a lot of the information are actually in Japanese, and there's no English translation, and a lot of them are quite hard to get in Malaysia as well, and even on the internet. One of the biggest things that I found was a 8 series lesson by Masubuchi Sensei, which is Sevenan Kyoshi. He had a video basically teaching high school students about Kyudo, and most of it, because it's high school students, he's teaching mostly fundamentals from all the 8 Shaho Hatetsu. So every episode goes one by one from Ashibumi to even like small stuff, like one episode is dedicated just Tenochi. So how to do Tenochi and all that. So with my knowledge of Japanese, I can actually understand what he's trying to say. So that's how I apply it to my practice. And I was lucky after a few years to actually found Hoff Sensei's book on online. So I actually bought it for myself to check it out. But ever since I went to IBU, Harada Sensei actually gave a few books, and I actually have a few books in Japanese from Matsuo Sensei. Matsuo Sensei's book is really useful is because he has a lot of pictures in it. So as you know, pictures say 1,000 words. And so the words are there, but it actually supplements what the pictures represent. And his book is actually one of the books that actually has both shaman and showman shooting. So whichever you practice, I think this two shooting style is one of the more common ones, even though, as you know, maybe showman will be way more at about 95% of the Kyudo population for Kyudo around the world.
Yeah, and you mentioned attending IBU, and normally when we think about that school, it's like people that just started practicing, or they're relatively like in their early 20s, mid 20s. What kind of motivated you to go there, and what was it like being slightly older than the regular student there?
At my quarter life crisis, I'm like 30s, and like I don't really understand where my life is headed. And I was actually in the same boat as Yosef because I was actually talking to Matsuo Sensei way before the Kyudo was implemented in the special program. So I actually halfway, about a few months after I quit my job, I actually saw that Kyudo was actually available as part of the program. So what happened was I actually applied for it like a few months after I quit my job. It's around like August, September is where you are able to apply. And what happened is when you apply for it, you will actually get the result around October, November, around that time. And during that time, you'll actually be able to see, like, they'll actually ask you to pay the fees and all that by December. And what happened was after December, they'll ask you to, after you paid the fees, they'll actually ask you to send in they'll send you some documents for you to fill in. One of it is the application for the scholarship as well. Yeah. All in all, yeah, it's as long as you can. I mean, they are staff over there. They're international office staff. They can speak English very well, so there's not much need for you to be able to speak Japanese with them. But definitely, if you're able to, for my experience over there, if you're able to speak Japanese very well, it would help you a lot. I would say like the experience would be two different experiences if you're able to speak Japanese, because you're able to communicate with them well. And I can guarantee you most of the sensei would be much more appreciative, and you can actually ask sensei questions because you don't need a translator to be able to convey your questions, whatever you need. And sometimes your sensei might need your help. He can just ask you in Japanese, and when he teaches, he doesn't like in Kyudo classes. Harada Sensei actually teaches mostly in Japanese. I mean, if you don't understand, he would be able to help you, but it would still be way more beneficial for you to be able to understand Japanese at that time. Yeah.
So you had already
go ahead.
You had already been doing Kyudo for about 6 years, 5-6 years at that time.
Yeah.
What did you find you were getting from this experience?
My main objective, more or less, is to be able to experience the university Kyudo club there. And one of my biggest thing that I found out in about Kyudo in IBU is that it's a very structural system where they have, as you know, maybe from anime as well, you have like senpai, gohai, and all this kind of hierarchy in the system where I realized that what happened is most of the time, as you know, the older students will have much more experience than the younger ones, like first years. So what happened is the older senpais will actually teach the younger ones, and the younger ones will mostly learn from the older senpais. So like club, what I could say is like grunt work, like cleaning and preparing the matto every single day, um, jotting down all the recording all the hits and marks. All this small task is actually being done by the first years, and we're lucky that um, we have like 4 first years because, as you know from Joseph, is the club is really lacking of students um, during his time as well. So this year I was actually really lucky that we actually have 4 first years, and so we are able to participate in the tournaments, the taikais, which one of the first taikai that I went to was the Chiba taikai, which just involves universities around Chiba. So every tournament actually has different rules, and this Chiba taikai has the rule is for each university you have like a team of 6 tachi, and as normal each tachi will shoot 4 arrows per person, so to a maximum of 24 shots. So it always goes from the preliminary level where every school will shoot, and the top maybe 20 universities will go to the knockout stage, and there'll be a draw, and you're being matched with another university, and each will how do you say, compete for the highest hits, basically. And what happens is after the first 4 shots of every single tachi, then if you are drawn in scores, then you'll start to go 1 shot per person. And if it goes again and it's 1 shot per person again, like it's kind of like sudden death. So whoever shots the most at the last set of shots will go to the next round, and it just continues all the way until the end. That's how most of the knockoff stages go.
How did you guys do?
We actually got second during that time.
Oh, wow.
And I wasn't one of the tachi. I wasn't one of tachi during that time, but we were really close because one of the players had a bad streak during the final match, and he got zannen in the the final match. So that's basically the decider, what happened, and we lost. I think Chiba Daigaku.
What do you mean by you weren't in the last tachi?
Basically, first I didn't understand how they picked the players, the shooters, to be participating in a team competition. So out of the 6 tachi, what they do is every a month or 2 before the actual competition, every single practice, every day. Excuse me. Every practice, basically they will before you start practicing, you'll have a mock like tachi where everyone shoots 4 arrows, and basically there'll be 5 sets of 4 arrows every single day of practice on the first. So basically, it's kind of like a practice for competition. So that's why you are not able to shoot any arrows before, except for the makiwara, which is the same as for all the competitions here in Japan, except the league. But all the competitions, every time before the match, you are not supposed to shoot except for just the makiwara. So you have literally no chance to practice before the match. So whatever you shoot is what you get. So that's the adrenaline part of Kyudo, I find, for the competition.
So were you saying that that's the reason why you weren't in the Tachi, because you needed prep time?
Yeah. No, why I say that is because I wasn't part of the top 6 during the months before the practice, before the competition, because it was in April, and I came in around April as well. So I didn't have much time to familiarize myself with the place and all that, and my shooting, especially for during nervous situations, is not really that good. That's why during that particular competition, they also have like Kojin Sen, which is basically individual competition, which that was one that I got top 10 actually out of, but that's why I sometimes I feel like Kyudo, it's kind of a luck of your draw during that day, if you're in that mood or not, if your heart is there or not. And if you start to get nervous and all that, and then you start to drop, and I feel like during that time I have no expectation of myself, and it seems like when you don't have any expectation of yourself, you tend to do good, really well. Somehow
Yeah.
that's the magic of Kyudo, I guess.
Actually, I did have the exact same feeling, because when our group was going for our like, we had a huge group in our dojo because we were relatively new and we were all grading at the same time. So we all got shodan together, I think like almost 20 people, and they all got nidan together. And then for the sandan, there were quite a couple of people that were definitely better than me, had a better hit rate. But I was the only one that hit, because I wasn't really expecting to do good. So I was the only one that got sandan in that exam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't expect it. Yeah, that was 2013, so 7 years ago. And I haven't done kyudos for a while.
So you're on your sandan right now, basically.
I am. So I got sandan in 2013, and then I stopped kyudo in 2014 or so when my daughter was born, and then quite a few other people. So now our dojo has like 4 or 5 yondans that were all nidans when I got my sandan, but now they're above me.
Yeah.
So anyways, you were talking about you went there to experience university Kyudo. What are some other things that you noticed from that experience?
Other than the kohai and the how do you say, the kohai and senpai relations that you can experience from that, with my understanding of like Japanese, and also I actually went to, after I started Kyudo, I actually go to Japan like basically every single year in April. And I actually contacted my sensei, Goka sensei, because he was doing his doctorate at Tsukuba as well. So I actually every year I go there for practice, and I'm actually one of the reasons why I was interested in University Kyudo is because when I go to Tsukuba and I actually participated in the practice, it was actually really different from what we were taught in regular Kyudo. They're noisy, they're like talking amongst each other. There's no such thing as quiet in Kyudo. In university, everyone was talking, everyone was trying to tell each other about the how to shoot better and all that. And one of the biggest thing that I realized from the university Kyudo compared to like the Shakai Kyudo, basically like adult Kyudo, is that their focus are really different. You can see like in my university itself, their shake, it's basically every single person's shooting is different because they came from different schools. Their sensei is different. Their priorities are different. Their focus on their shooting is different because in University Kyudo, the only thing that you focus on is hits. That's how you get past the competition. And they are focusing, because they are focusing on the competition, so they are only focusing on the hits. So their shooting style and all that, everything is secondary to what we were taught in like the regular Kyudo that we went to. And one of the things that Sensei always talk about for being much to increase your accuracy, basically it's three things. He said it was nerai, which is aiming, your aim. Nobiai, which is the continuation of your kai, and also tsunomi no hataraki. It's the thing that you do with your one of the most important thing you do with your tenoichi of your left hand. Because if all these three are right, you are basically gonna hit the target. So during most of the club practice, we are mostly focusing on these three elements instead of the whole tie high and all that. I can tell you that basically everyone in University Kyudo does a sort of tie high, but it's not as how do you say? It's not the focus of their practice, basically.
So how do you think the senseis manage something like this? Because I'd imagine like Goka sensei or Harada sensei, they would probably have pretty good tai-hai as well, and they know that the importance of focusing on that, and yet they teach at a university. So how do you manage students that way, knowing that there's this other side of Kyudo, and then how do you see them transitioning? Because eventually they would graduate, and if they want to continue Kyudo, they have to start doing it for real.
That is actually an interesting and great question. It's what happens was from like Harada sensei, actually we had a bit of a discussion about Kyudo between like Shakai and also the university and student level, and also the adult Kyudo. So what happened is after university, the drop of Kyudoka, the Kyudoka drop is very exponential. So what happens is actually a lot of the students after university, they stop Kyudo. And just like almost I think might be similar to Saito sensei who was here, and he basically stopped Kyudo after university, even though his shake is actually really, really good. But somehow coming to Malaysia for him is like a how do you say, nostalgia, and maybe relive his good old days. That's why he started Kyudo back again. Yeah. So in the end, it's whatever the objective is at that time. I find that's where Harada sensei actually focus on, rather than even Matsuo sensei. He doesn't really focus much on Thai high that much, as long as you can do it appropriate enough and not look sloppy as to not this so-called embarrass the university's name kind of thing. And because during competitions you have to do Thai high as well, but they don't grade it according to how good your Thai high is, so people don't focus on it. So people focus more on the shooting rather than the Thai high. That's why you see in if you can actually check a lot of the university shooting in YouTube, where they actually post a lot of the university competition on YouTube as well. A lot of their shake is actually really different. I wouldn't say bad, but different. I wouldn't be able to say bad because they hit the target every single time, even though you feel like it looks weird, but they hit the target every single time. So I wouldn't say I wouldn't be able to say it's bad.
So when you go to Japan though, you're not looking to do university Kyudo, and yet that's where you're going. How do you think about your purpose of going to Japan and doing your practice, and where do you focus?
I actually focus in all parts of one of the big things why I go to Japan is one of the main thing is to challenge myself in all aspects of life, like socializing and getting to know people. Because sometimes when you are here and you're used to the comfort of your own country, you tend to be disillusioned by what you know and what you have. One of the things that I learned, it's always good to be uncomfortable in an uncomfortable situations, because I after that I actually watch a lot of like YouTube about like self improvement and stuff. One of the big things is like it's when you're uncomfortable. The uncomfortable time is the time when you actually grow, because a lot of times when we are in our comfortable situations, we tend to be too relaxed, and with the relaxation, you tend to just stay contented with yourself, and because of that, you tend to not learn new stuff and not improve yourself day to day. And by going to Japan, I kind of self-realization that like every day you have to challenge yourself in something new. And what I found with Kyudo actually is Kyudo, with what I've experienced in Kyudo, it actually tells me about more or less the same in life. Everything has its challenges, because in Kyudo, no matter what you do, you can't be the best Kyudoka in the world, and somehow there's some sort of wave that always goes to you even in practice. Like you can be good and kaichu every single day, and somehow one day you start to mess up and you start to not know what the hell what I don't know if I can swear here or not, but yeah, I don't know what kind of thing that you can do wrong during that time when you mess up, and you start to change things and you start to dip in form, and you start to not like one of the big things that I realized like during the summer that I was in Japan, I kept hitting my cheek with the string, and I was so afraid that my form started to dip way more. And one of the things that we had in University Kyudo is that we go for a field trip, kind of like a field practice trip, I guess you could say. It's like you go to a place for like maybe a 3 days, 2 nights, and basically you do Kyudo the whole day. Sleep Kyudo, wake up Kyudo, eat Kyudo kind of thing. So during that time was really my worst form, where doing our like a fun summer hyaku shakai, basically shooting 100 arrows. it's up to the point that your skin are tearing from your fingers kind of practice. So during that time, I kept hitting my face, and it was one of the most painful days of my time in Japan. But sooner or later, you start to realize the effort that you do. A lot of these things I realize like with discomfort, you still need to put in a lot of effort to be able to succeed. Like if you slack off or you don't put in the effort, um, the success will never come to you, because no matter how I realize even in competitions and stuff, like you can be practicing like 6 days a week, but I realize some people will be practicing 7 days a week, maybe 5-6 hours a day. And a lot of times I realize that effort actually translates to the results. How much you put into practice, especially if you practice smartly and understand, and not like, practice blindly and just keep on shooting 20 arrows, 20 arrows, 20 arrows, and not understanding what you're doing at all. One of the biggest things I learned is in Japan is, other than just practicing, you need to practice smartly. What I did in Japan was basically every day I shoot at least 60 arrows. And what happened is, like, sometimes you're doing good, sometimes you're doing bad, but whenever you always focus on hitting the target, it always ends up bad. What happened was when during one of the league matches, I haven't talked about league matches actually. The league matches are actually like similar to, they have like tiers in league matches, basically tiers for schools in different parts of Japan. So ours is in the middle of Kanto. So our league has 4 tiers, I think. We're in the 3rd tier. And what happened is you match up with each universities in the tier. And if you get first in the tier, you get to move up a tier. And then if you get at the bottom, you get to move down a tier. And what happens is the lowest of the tier will fight with the highest of the lower tier. So for example, if the 2nd tier, the lowest position will play the highest position in the 3rd tier at the end of all the matches. And if the lower tier wins basically whoever wins that game will exchange positions.
So when you talk about upper tier, lower tier, is a bigger number a higher tier, or is a smaller number a higher tier?
Sorry. Yeah, the lower number is the higher tier.
So tier 1 is the top.
Yeah. So basically what happens is if you're on the 1st tier and basically you top the 1st tier, you're basically the champion. Same like I think most sports. Well, I think in English Premier League, it's kind of like the 1st tier is kind of like the English Premier League first division. Yep. Yeah. During that time, actually, one of the matches, I actually kaichu. You have to shoot 20 arrows per person, and there's 8 Kyudoka, like 8 tachi per university. So what happened is you'll all be shooting a total of 160 shots. And one of the time I don't, for me, it's like I'm always very concentrated in the start. So somehow my shots are always concentrated at the start of the tachi. So my first shot, one of the times when my first 8 shots was kaichu, So I got Kaichu twice, and I shot all 8. And then when I got praise from my sensei, the next tachi I got only 1 shot. So when you start to get a bit of like for me, when you start to get a bit of like excitement about it, somehow it starts to dip. And that happened to me throughout the league matches. But good to say is we actually went up to the 2nd tier because we won all our matches. Well, most of the time I find it our toughest match is we got 122 versus 96, I think. The hits. So
so you're like blowing the other teams out of the water.
yeah, kind of. That's why this year actually they actually have like kind of a invitational in Kanto for the top one of the highest top hits. Like they have a Haru the spring invitation. For those that shot have the top 10 or 20 universities. I'm not so sure about that one, but top 10 or 20 universities in the whole Kanto region or something. If you have like one of the highest shooting hit rates, you actually get to the invitational spring invitational tournament, which is being participated by all the higher the universities that has a high shooting rate. And we are actually, because of that, we got an average of around 120 shots per match. So we are actually being invited for the spring invitational, but sadly due to the coronavirus this year, it was canceled. So that was really, really disappointing.
So when you were talking about the tournament where in Chiba where you guys got 2nd place and then this league competition, is this all during the time you were at IBU like last year, or did you participate in these when you were just visiting?
No, when I was in IBU, because if you are not able to participate if you're not a student, because all of this, I'm actually, even though it's 1 year, I'm still treated as a student of IBU. So I have my student card and all that. I can participate in all student tournaments, even though I'm 35. Like you were asking previously about like my age and how am I able to like how do you say, put myself into the mix myself with all these younger people. And the first years are basically like 19 years old. They're not even able to drink yet because the drinking age in Japan is 20. But one of the good thing about me going to Japan at this age is because my face, I think I look like I'm like on some people say like I'm a late 20s. So I don't feel I in between them, they don't feel that I'm like that much older, even though at age wise I'm older than Harada sensei as well. So it's all, I think the Asian blood in me makes me look a lot younger than I actually am. I think that's one of the reasons why I get to mix well with the younger students there. Even um, the other foreigners in the same dorm as me as well. What happened was since I'm the oldest among them, um, during the time when they picked the leader, and there's not even a second when they were asking, we need a leader to represent the foreign students in the dorm, and everyone just Hiro nonstop. But that's what I was trying to do. I mean, like trying to socialize with everyone, get to know everyone, and one of the positive things about like going overseas and everyone, if they have a chance, is to network and get to know people. And with Kyudo for the past 6 years, I've been making friends from Hong Kong to South Africa to Australia, New Zealand, even like during the in February, uh, Harada Sensei was actually supposed to bring like the students to Europe for their yearly uh, the what was it, the yearly seminar to Hungary and what was it, and Austria, because like previously I think you've heard from Joseph that they Harada Sensei actually goes to um, Europe to do his seminar with the students. I think one of the biggest things why Harada Sensei wants to do that is to expose the students to like foreign culture and even like Kyudo from different parts of the world and how they conduct themselves and how they practice Kyudo and kind of make them much more humble that they are practicing Kyudo in Japan, where they have all the equipments and dojo is nice, clean, and beautiful, and you don't really have to do much setting up. And I think one of the biggest things that he did, and even Matsuo Sensei, is bringing the students there to kind of experience foreign cultures, as most of them haven't even stepped out of Japan before, to be honest.
Yeah, so you've had that experience going to Japan from Malaysia, but I'd imagine there are some people in Malaysia that haven't had that opportunity yet either. So what are
Yeah.
you trying to bring in back to the country from these experiences?
At this moment, what I've learned from Harada Sensei as well, one of the big things that I've learned from experiences in Japan is like from the equipment. One of the books, um, I think the Gray Book. I don't remember what's the title. Yeah, one of the Gray Books that Matsuo Sensei and a few senseis written about Kyudo. What I've brought back is basically like how do you take care of your equipment, the different ways for you to choose your equipment, a lot of the beginner things that a lot of people have not much information about. I realized like in Kyudo, especially internationally, a lot of people are at a loss of what to pick or what to choose when they start Kyudo, right? Because there's not a lot of times there's basically no sensei around, and you're actually starting off from like internet or maybe books that you have gotten. And one of the um, things that I learned from there is sensei actually has we had like I think well quite a few classes when we were there, from history to like the equipment and also the how to teach judo. One of the most interesting things when he was talking about teaching is, as you know, from maybe I'm not so sure about Canada or where you're at right now, but most of the time when you start teaching Kyudo, the students that started Kyudo will have to start with the Gomuyumi from like for 3 months before they even able to touch the actual Yumi. So some of the things that he was talking about to get people interested in Kyudo was sort of just with Yumi itself and not even Gomu Yumi, because that's how you pique their interest in Kyudo and actually start to have that motivation and drive to continue like wanting to know more, because you get that small experience that actually sparked the interest of learning more, which I realize is one of the biggest thing. It's just like some people actually saw how people shoot Kyudo, especially like some people think that the Hiki style, which is much more like bushi, like they have Koshiya, and as you can check out the YouTube video of the demonstration during the Tokyo World Taikai, that they have the Koshiya demonstration, which is much more inclined to the Hiki style of shooting, where people find it very cool, kakkoi, and all that. So they tend to want to practice it more. So we are actually looking at different ways to make people interested in Kyudo, rather than just, because I am sure that everyone, if they start off with just Gomuyumi for the first 3 months, maybe 10% of them who is actually much more resilient would be left out of the, I think, hundreds of people that are starting off Kyudo.
So it'd be like some kind of rotation between doing something fun and then doing something that actually is good on your basics, working on Kihon, and then back to something fun, and then back to something.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And,
so we don't actually have that much time. I wanted to just get to some questions.
Yeah, sure.
Some rapid fire questions just to close off this.
Yep.
And we can, hopefully in the future, we can talk more about just generally other things that you've learned. But so first question would be, do you have a quote or a proverb or a motto or something that you think about in your practice or in your life? You mentioned that you watch some like self-help stuff. Is there one that's your favorite?
Effort equals results. That's one of my favorites, because one of the biggest things I realize is like a lot of things, we all tend to be disillusioned by what happened to yourself, especially like sometimes you blame other people. People tend to not take responsibility. I find that with a lot of times, like effort, when you put in the effort, the results will come, and trusting in the process of effort that equates to a result is actually a good motto for myself, and I hope everyone would be able to find that as well.
Cool. In the last few years, what have you changed your mind on? Something that you didn't think was important that is important now? Something you thought was true or false before, but now is the opposite? What have you changed your mind over?
I have to think a bit about that. Well, actually, a lot of things have changed. But one of the biggest things I've changed since I was in Japan is like you have to take responsibility for your self. I find everything, when you start to take responsibility for it and not find fault in other people, it tends to get resolved really quickly, and you tend to understand other people way more. Like the simple thing is, let's just say if you borrow or lend your pencil to your friend, and then your friend doesn't give you back, or he lost it. If you take the responsibility for yourself and like, maybe I shouldn't borrow or lend him anymore since he's not that responsible, then you could be able to have that pencil for yourself. And a lot of these things that if you take responsibility towards what has happened, because one of the things that I take from my father that he said to me before is, nobody else will adapt to you, is your ability to adapt to the others, because you can change yourself, but you cannot change other people. So by changing yourself, it makes life way more easier compared to trying to change other people, especially in opinions as well.
Yeah, I subscribe to that theory as well. What would you consider your favorite stage of the Hasetsu, and why?
Favorite stage of the Hasetsu. For me, I think it's Kai, because Kai is the complete form of Kyudo, and most of the time in Kai is where you have everything has to be perfect in order to get the perfect Hanare as well. In Kai, if like what we talked about previously, the three things, Nerai, Nobiai, and Tsunomi no Hataraki is all in Kai. If all these three matches correctly, and you'll be able to get a good shot. That's the focus, and that's why I think Kai is one of my favorite out of the Hasetsu.
Cool. What is your comfort food?
Comfort food, pudding. Well, in specific is Japanese pudding. The soft gelatinous with caramel that you can get 100 yen in Japanese convenience stores.
Oh yeah, those are so good.
Yeah, it always makes me dream of, like, think about the good old times and when I was 18 years old in high school in Japan, always going past convenience stores and just getting those puddings before I go back home.
Okay, final question before we just wrap up is, if someone were to log into your YouTube account, YouTube recommends you videos based on what you most often watch. What would someone see as YouTube recommending to you?
At this moment would be after school programs, which is actually like ideas and like information that is being compiled, just like if you've heard of ASAP Science. It's basically like a doodle of scientific information of the world, anything from coronavirus to the vitamins that you eat to sexual preferences to anything that you can do with popular culture. I'm basically mostly self-help stuff. There's a lot, because I like to listen to people's opinions, and like at this moment I'm also a lot of Jordan Peterson lectures and stuff will pop up. I think that's the main one. I think he's from University of Toronto, right?
Yeah,
where you studied.
Yeah, he made quite the name for himself a few years back. But I think he should be having a new book coming out or something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. So thank you so much for taking time to do this interview. Do you have any closing message you want to just give to our audience, something that you just want to share to wrap this up?
Yeah. Whatever 1 hour conversation that we have, I hope this would help future Kyudo students in understanding about Kyudo, and hope that those that wanted to go to IBU would have a bit of information of the life in IBU and what you can expect from Kyudo in IBU, or even from other respective Budos as well. That would be my message. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sean. Or Hiro. Actually, we didn't even get to, how did you get the name Hiro?
My name Hiro actually came from my Chinese name. My full name is Ow Yong Honshen. So my Chinese name is Hong Xuan. So when you read it in Japanese, it's Hironobu.
Okay, cool.
So, so it's in a way my name. It's just not in my birth certificate. So when I went out for went out around like Japan and stuff and meet new people, I actually address myself as Hiro. So one of the things is it's easier to remember me.
Yeah,
That's how
definitely. Cool.
the name got
Awesome.
stuck.
So thank you so
Okay.
much. And I'll
Sure. Thank you.
talk to you then. Bye.
Yep. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.